Watch it, jerk. Shut up, idiot. Moron. Scab eater. Butt sniffer. Pus licker. Fart smeller. You eat dog crap for breakfast, geek. You mix your weenies with your mama's toe jam. Yeah! You bob for apples in the toilet, and you like it. You play ball like a girl. What did you say? You heard me. Tomorrow, noon, at our field. Get the buffalo butt breath. Count on it, pee-drinking crap face.
The cool crowd shifts to different types of personalities. Nowadays, it's like nerds are cool crowd. You know what I mean? It used to be back in the day, it was like jocks were the cool crowd, football players, sports, any kind of sports related were the cool crowd. Now it's like nerds and
culture.
video and gamers. You know,
nerd culture. It
took over the world.
It's crazy, and they were talking about all right. Well, let's get into this. Today we're going to be talking about The Sandlot. This movie came out in 1993. It was directed by David Mickey Evans. It was also written by David Mickey Evans as well.
And narrated.
Robert Gunter. And it was narrated by David Mickey Evans. And it's based on the life of David Mickey Evans.
Yep.
So.
And you know that, well, I'll let you get through the introduction.
Yeah, I was just going to, let me get through this part. It stars Tom Gurry as Scotty Smalls, Mike Vitar as Benny Franklin Rodriguez. Art LaFleur played the Babe, obviously. Patrick Renna played Hamilton Ham Porter. Chauncey Leopardi played Michael Squints Pilato, and that dude is also in the Logic music videos
correct.
we watched. Marty York played Alan Yaya, or Yeah. And then we had Brandon Quinton Adams. He played Kenny DeNunez. He's also the kid in Moonwalker, that Michael Jackson movie.
Yeah,
He did all the
I remember that.
awesome Michael Jackson moves. Grant Gelt as Bertram. We also had Dennis Leary as Bill, Karen Allen as Mom, Marley Shelton as Wendy, Peffercorn, and James Earl Jones as Mr. Myrtle.
You know, I forgot about James Earl Jones being in this movie because I mean it's been a while since I've seen it, and I forgot about him being in this movie, and I also forgot about Dennis Leary.
I did forget about Dennis Leary being in this movie. I think
I keep on wanting to call him O'Leary because you know he's
Dennis O'Leary,
big time. You know,
he's Irish. Yeah. You know, I couldn't remember. I could have sworn it was a different older gentleman or whatever as the grumpy old guy, but I guess that makes sense.
And we find out it's because of Squints that they think that way about him, and he's actually not that bad of a person.
And for the life of me, I could have sworn it was Richard Dreyfuss who played the older version of what's the kid's name? Scotty Smalls.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was Richard Dreyfuss, but you know, obviously, I'm thinking of Stand By Me because I know there was narration in this movie. You know, this movie being a lot like A Christmas Story. It's a coming of age story that's being narrated by the older version of the main character you're following.
So it is a true story.
Yeah, it's based on some stuff that the writer director had to deal with in his childhood. With this, so I don't know if it's completely accurate with the Babe Ruth ball and the stepfather and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of it came from his childhood experiences playing baseball and that kind of stuff. This movie was actually filmed in our stomping grounds in Utah.
Really?
It was filmed in Salt Lake City and it was filmed in Ogden.
I did not know that.
The maid filming location.
I think I did hear about that, actually.
Yeah, probably from maybe Ashley or something. But the main filming locations is Midvale, Salt Lake City, and Ogden. But they all are supposed to be a 1960s version of California.
Right, and
but you saw those mountains, right?
Yeah.
As soon as I saw those mountains, I was like, those look like Utah mountains.
Yeah.
And I had to go look up, and sure enough, yeah. Like the pool scene, that was in Ogden.
Which is funny about that because it was like 50 degrees that day.
Yeah.
So like
and it was hot also. Well, the water was 50 degrees.
Yeah. So everybody was like freezing their butt off, and they're supposed to act like it was like hot, but you could see in some of these kids, especially with no meat on their bones kind of thing, they were shivering in that pool, you know.
You remember Gramercy Avenue in Ogden, right? Yeah, that's where the pool is. It's on Gramercy Avenue.
Gotcha.
So I thought that was pretty interesting, and then most of the other stuff, like Benny and Small's houses, they were in Salt Lake City and everything. So
yeah,
pretty cool stuff. Do you remember watching this for the first time?
Yes, but back then I felt a lot more akin, not the time period, but as young as the kids were, is when I watched the movie. I feel like. What year did this come out in?
93. And so you would have been about
14.
12.
Because I was 11 in 90.
You're 10 in 81, or 10 in 91.
Yeah.
And you would have been 12 in 93.
Okay.
So you were 12. You were these kids' age.
Yeah. So
these were all 12-year-olds.
When I first watched this, I felt more in common with it. You know what I mean? Not the time period, but I grew up loving sports.
Right.
And to this day, I still love sports. Not a huge baseball fan anymore. I like football.
But you have all kinds of baseball cards.
Oh, I do. I used to love baseball. I'm a diehard Mets fan. Yeah. Always have been, always will be.
You have cards from back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, I remember.
Yeah, I mean, I have tons of baseball cards. I grew up loving baseball. You know what I mean? And then I got introduced to football. And
basketball.
And basketball, yeah. And that's when, like I love to watch.
It does seem like you start off as a kid, if you're a sports person, you start off as a kid, baseball. That's the main kid sport, and everything. Yeah. And then you either diverge from that and you become a football/basketball star, or it's baseball all the way and, you have season tickets to your favorite team or whatever.
Funny enough, my first sport playing, organized like that was soccer. Mom put me in soccer.
Yeah, me too. I was on the orange team, much like Jim.
Yeah. Yeah, I just remember because we were all neon colors.
Yeah, I just remember orange, and whenever Jim on the office said I was on the orange team, I was like, I was on the orange team too.
Yeah. But I just remember playing soccer. I believe Steven was there too, and he was playing soccer too at the same time. And I just always remember playing soccer first, then playing baseball. And I was always a big guy, so I was always playing, like big guy positions like catcher, where not a lot of running involved.
I was in the outfield when I played.
Yeah, I know. Well, they did that on purpose.
And I put the glove. I would put the glove over my face, and I could see little. I could see through the little holes when this was in my face.
No, I remember.
And I would try to look at things through the little holes. And then suddenly they'd be calling my name, and then I'd look around. I'm like, wait, what's going on? And the ball's been hit my way. And then once I threw it back, I took my glove, and I just started throwing it up in the air.
You were one of those few kids that weren't a huge fan of sports in general, but especially now, like you can't stand sports. I know that you can't stand sports. I bet you couldn't even name one player that's playing right now professionally for football.
Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, yeah, but that's kind of Hollywood.
Or did he retire?
He retired.
Damn it. Ray Lewis, he's a good defensive. Damn it.
He retired a while ago, so.
Yeah, you're right. I probably
those are all the Hollywood stars that they talk about on Facebook and Hollywood and stuff. So.
And I couldn't even say Tom Brady because I know that he retired too.
No, he came back. Actually, came out of retirement within a couple months of actually going into retirement.
So that's the point that I wanted to make: is that this is you. Mm-hmm. This is your childhood type of movie.
Yeah.
You loved. Whether it's The Little Giants or The Sandlot or A League of Their Own or Angels in the Outfield, stuff like that.
What's the one where the guy from he was on American Pie? His arm, he got in an accident.
Yeah, it's not Angels in the Outfield. It's that one that I just said. Or did I say A League of Their Own?
League of Their Own.
Oh, no, this is. I know who you're talking about.
Where he breaks his arm or something, and then when it gets repaired, it's like a slingshot. And he throws like 180.
Yeah, what the hell is that called? That's I'm not going to look it up.
I'm pretty sure it's a Disney movie.
No, it is. It's called Rookie of the Year. Is it Rookie of the Year? Yeah, I think it was Rookie something.
But I love those movies. Mighty Ducks were some of my favorite movies.
Exactly.
To this day, they're still one of my favorite. I love sports movies.
Right. So that's you. Me, I was the Goonies. I was like, I don't want to play sports. I just want to go and play pretend or have fun with my friends, that type of thing. So. So these movies I could see clicking with you. I liked a lot of them when I was younger, but you like them because, usually they have the epic win at the end. But this didn't have that.
Yeah, I this movie didn't have that?
This movie didn't have what it usually has. And that's what makes this movie so unique, is that there's always like a driving thing, right? As you got that final game. The game that they played against those other punks in their little little league get up and everything, that should have been at the end of the movie with this epic win, but it was just like a nonchalant in the middle of the movie, kick their ass type of thing real quick. Their big thing at the end was facing the dog.
No, the epicness of the movie reached its climax. It got close with the dog, but it reached its climax when Benny, as an adult, hit that home, I think he hit the homer at the end, as an adult. And the first thing he really does is look to his buddy, his childhood friend, and puts his thumb up.
Yeah.
I think that's the epic climax.
I mean, that's a great moment, but I'm just saying at most sports movies, you have that final game where you're not doing too well, and then you come back a little bit, and then you're not doing too well, and then you come back and you win it, whether it's the Bobby Boucher thing and the Water Boy or whatever.
Ricky Bobby.
But yeah, I mean, this movie has been known for that, for being that one movie that didn't make, I think even Ebert said it. It's a one movie where it wasn't about winning.
Yeah.
The movie is not about winning a sports game or whatever, or winning that epic sports game and everything. So, yes, there's that epic moment at the end where he's grown up and they're both grown up. But I'm just saying there's no, final thing that they've been dealing with all movie where it's like a final game or whatever. All sports movies has that final game, basically. But this is a true coming-of-age story told through the lens of the love of baseball.
Right. Well, whether it be... I see what you're getting with that because, it doesn't matter what sport. You know what I mean? What sport it is. You always want the same climax. You always want the same. And that's why I think with, putting his thumb up, it just came to the realization that, that kid had a friend who, no matter how popular, how famous, how great at baseball he was, that his friend made the effort to include him like he did, when they were kids. But at the end of the game, at the end of this game and where he hit the home run or whatever, when they're adults, he looks at him, and that's just basically like, him saying, hey, you're my friend. You've been there since the beginning. I'm glad I get to share this moment with you.
There's a theory about why these two stuck together and why they became the famous baseball people, one a player and one an announcer.
Right.
So we'll get into that. But, yeah, David Mickey Evans took this. I feel like this is solely the world of adolescence, right? It's a type of movie that doesn't have direction or drive because, it focuses on times, without parents around.
Right.
And how unstructured and unordered that can be. Like I said, there's no real adults around, so there's no real driving force. It's just kind of a chaotic movie because that's how it really is with kids. We shift from one thing to another because we lose focus easily and stuff. So there's really no plot purpose until the last third of the movie. There's all the threats you have in the establishing characters and just kids being kids. But it's not until the last third of the movie that they finally have their real mission, and that's to get the ball back.
And I gotta say, for you, what do you, for me as a kid, what I used to think of as a kid, summertime, it was getting together with friends, usually playing with toys, of action figures or sports, when I was a kid. And that's what my idea of summer was, going to the pool. They hit all the right things, 4th of July, everything else like that throughout this whole movie. I feel like this is one of the ultimate summer movies.
Yeah, it's back to a time when, summer would turn magical, right? Like nowadays, it's like, okay, well, you got to plan your summer vacations as quick as you can because it's going to be so packed in these theme parks and plane trips and getting on the road and doing this. And every time you go to any kind of water park or trampoline park or anything nowadays, it's like the whole place is packed and you can barely even have fun. And you're waiting half an hour just to do one thing that takes 2 minutes, right? This is back to a time when summer would turn magical, like the clocks would slow. There's a romantic longing for a girl that, you have all summer and you're trying to figure out how to talk to that person, a la My Girl or something. Moments of heroism to a child, as far as, Benny doing what he did, batting that ball into that kid's thing, and Benny running into the backyard and being chased by that dog, and never-ending games. That would just continue. They probably didn't even finish a game. It's like, oh, we'll pick it up again tomorrow if we find a ball.
Yeah, I think it's very, very telling too. This time of life for the this age that these kids were. It's the molding ages. That's the way I look at it.
Coming of age.
It's the coming of age. It's basically at this age, kids seem to really mold into the person they're going to be as an adult in a way. You know what I mean? Because before that age, you might have sleepovers and stuff like that, and get-togethers and birthday parties. But it's not like spending days upon days with your friends like they do here, know, and on top of that, nowadays you can't do that. You can't let your kids just go out and roam the neighborhoods anymore.
Well, what would you say the antagonist of this movie is?
The antagonist of this movie,
I don't think it's any.
I think it's the Sandlot in a way, because it's their pinnacle of their summer and their togetherness is that baseball field. And it just seems to always throw them for a loop, whether or not it be busted baseball, another team coming in to compete on their field rather than this one. The dog that's part of this field, in a sense, the mystery and the story behind the dog. The clubhouse is even on this field. I feel like the antagonist.
Well, that's a good location.
And I know, but I feel like a location could be an antagonist in a way. I
was going to piggyback on what you were just saying before, and I think the antagonist of this movie is coming of age.
Yeah. I get that.
It's the coming of age, and I want to get into that more because I've written a whole thing about what this movie means and what the coming of age and as being the antagonist in this movie means. Going through it real quick, basically this movie is about, in the summer of the 60s, a shy fifth grader named Scott Smalls moves to a Los Angeles suburb. He tries to join a group of boys that play baseball. His mom wants him to make friends and stuff. And so he finds these kids that are playing baseball at a local Sandlot, but he's really embarrassed because he can't play very well. He asks his stepdad because his real dad passed away when he was younger. But yeah, so basically they're playing this little thing of catch, and you get a sense that the stepfather, played by his name is Bill, but he's played by Dennis Leary in this, that he might not be a nice guy, but you don't get it fully. I think in the casting of Dennis Leary, you're already kind of put back on your heels, like, okay, is this kind of big guy going to be a jerk or whatever?
Yeah.
'Cause usually Dennis Leary is some kind of a jerk,
right? And
everything. Sometimes
but a lot of times
he's a real jerk.
He's just
he's a lovable jerk.
He's a lovable jerk. I think more times than not. There's that one where he was came in to kidnap that couple. What was the name of it?
About it had the dude that's
divorce.
That's not very
person.
Good right now.
Yeah,
I think it was called The Babysitter or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah,
the house sitter or whatever. The Sitter, I think.
The Sitter. Yeah.
Okay, now
you're gonna look it up. But anyways, my relationship, the way I looked at that relationship between his dad and his son, it at first I was like, you can't really trust Dennis Leary. But when he said that his father, when it was said that his father gave him that baseball, right then and there, I knew he was a good guy.
Yeah, but it was said whenever he wasn't there. It was the mom who said it, if you remember. She said his father gave it to him. Maybe one day he'll give it to you.
Right.
And then I was kind of like, well, it just made me a little nervous, because we knew something was going to happen with this ball.
Right. Right. But that's when I knew that Dennis Leary's character wasn't that bad. He was a little, you could tell he had never.
The ref.
The ref. That's it.
Yeah.
He never really raised children before. Like, this is obviously his first and only time, I guess.
You get the sense at the beginning, at least, that he either doesn't want to be a father. You know, he loves the wife. You don't see any problems there. He's not like he's an abusive person. But he just doesn't seem to be interested in being a father.
Yeah.
And it seems like that maybe changes a bit, which is something that I'm going to mention as we go on. But yeah, you kind of get the sense of unease at first because you're like, this guy has no patience.
Well, and he blew him off about playing catch at first.
Yeah, he's being bothered in his little trophy room as he's trying to set it up and everything. Yeah. But then you see that ball.
Yeah, but you could tell that he longed for having that father figure.
The kid?
Like, no, Dennis Leary's character, Bill did. He felt like, like he missed his dad. Like, you could tell he missed his dad because that whole trophy room seemed to be some sort of idolization of his dad. Obviously his dad is the one that really kind of introduced him to baseball. And so, in his right, I think, when he got married, he knew that she had a son. He knew that he would have to be some sort of father figure to
maybe
him.
He was unsure because he didn't get to raise his kids from young age or whatever, but
baseball was it's a key factor in the entire movie.
Of course, they use baseball to speak to the audience about the coming of age.
Correct.
But yeah, baseball is like with Goonies, it's a treasure hunt. With Sandlot, it's baseball or whatever. But so anyways, they try to play, but he'd throw the ball to Smalls, and Smalls, instead of throwing it back, first of all, he didn't catch the ball. Instead of throwing it back, he'd walk it back and just kind of hand it to him.
Yeah.
So it basically got to the point where he's like, all right, I'm going to throw it. Keep your eye on the ball. And I think there's a little bit of on-purposeness that he threw it at the kid's face, because he thought that he would it would make him catch it
and not be scared of the ball in a way,
right,
because
once you get hit, at least so it doesn't hit your face.
Yeah, because
but he didn't
until
think
you get hit with the ball.
Bad.
Yeah, well, until you get hit by the ball, you don't really. You're still scared of the ball. Like, in a way, once you get hit by the ball.
What does Mike Tyson say? He's like, everybody's a fighter, a big man until you get punched in the mouth.
In the nose.
I'm pretty sure it's the mouth.
I'll bet you $1 million. Okay. Look it up.
All right.
But it's punched in the nose, because if you notice, if you've ever been punched in the nose, which you punched me in the nose several times, but it disorients you right at first. You know what I mean? So when you get hit in the nose, in your mouth, you're not so much disoriented. You can get your jaw broken, but with the nose, it disorients you, because it disorients your vision, and it's hitting one of your senses directly. You know what I mean? Like your nose, and your eyes too, in a way. But it's very disorienting.
When Mike Tyson was asked by a reporter whether he was worried about Evander Holyfield and his fight plan, Mike Tyson said, "Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth."
It's the mouth?
Yeah. That's the quote here. So, but I mean, it's true. Whether it's your nose or your mouth, when you get punched in the face, everything goes out the window or whatever. But yeah. So, anyways, he ends up getting hit in the face with that ball, and he gets a black eye from it. But because he did so bad on the field the previous day, right?
Yeah.
Benny is such an awesome kid that he decides, okay, well, let's invite this kid. Like, you don't see that much nowadays, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, he gets invited by Benny to go play pickup.
Well, he
game
just
with
shows
him
up
or
there
whatever
originally. In the first place.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He goes there first. They make fun of him, and he goes home. That's when he gets the black eye. And then Benny comes by, and he's like, hey, you want to come play? And he's got this black eye for the rest of the movie. So they go there, and he's trying to teach him. Okay, they hit the ball, and he almost kind of gets knocked down, and he's like, okay, teaches him how to. He's like, can you throw the ball back? And I think the kid is small, so he even walks it back to the pitcher.
Uh-huh.
And they're like, well, look, he even teaches him. Okay,
you ever have a paper route?
I helped the guy once.
Okay, well, tuck it like you would throw a paper. When your arm gets here, just let go. Just let go. It's that easy.
How do I catch it?
Just stand there and stick your glove out in the air. I'll take care of it.
And Benny just because he's some kind of amazing
just natural,
impressive guy,
natural athlete.
He's like, just put your glove out and I'll do the rest. And I thought that was always like the coolest line when I was a kid. The way he's like, just put your glove up like this and I'll do the rest, you know. And so he just put his glove up and Benny knocked it right straight into his glove. That's some good aim.
But if you look at Benny too, though, Benny was kind of surprised that he did that.
Was he? I didn't think it looked like it.
Yeah, if you look, because he was just like, yes, you know, like not expecting to do it, but hoping, like, to God that he ends up doing it.
Maybe, but I think the point of it is, it's not like he was going to do that every time. And obviously that doesn't work for Smalls. It can't just be like, all right, this will come straight to your glove every time. But Benny saw that Smalls just needed confidence. Mm-hmm. And that he was just scared and he needed confidence. So if he's able to at least once hit it straight into his glove, then from then on, Smalls will actually try to start catching it. He won't be afraid of it anymore. He'll keep his eye on the ball because he's caught it once now, and now he knows how to catch it.
Well, and even then, you know, too, it was kind of a way for them to, you know, the rest of them to accept him, you know, to accept Smalls, and it was kind of a way to get the group to accept him. I mean, they needed a ninth man. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't like they couldn't have used him. You know what I mean? But they just were like they weren't the cool group. No. They were just the baseball players,
like kind of the outcast.
Yeah, they were that kind of the outcast. So to be,
I guess it wasn't really outcast back then, but you know, it was more like. Yeah, they're not the ones that conform.
Yeah, like the baseball players that came in trying to play the little leaguers and everything. Yeah, they were, you know, quote unquote the cool crowd, you know. And so I think in a way, you know, for Smalls, he had to be part of it because, you know, it'd be like being not cool enough for the not cool crowd. Yeah, you know what I mean. So and he'd be lonely, and you know, we know how it's like to move into a town and not grow up with the same people our entire lives. You know, it's where
every 2 to 4 years you have to move.
Exactly. Every couple of years you're moving away, and so, you know, any friends you may have made in that time, you've got to start all over again, which made us pretty much experts when it came to making friends.
Shout out to our fellow military brats out there. Yep. So anyways, basically they accept him, and it's really weird because they are all against him, all make fun of him. Once Benny he catches one ball and he throws one ball, and suddenly they're like, "Oh, okay, he can play. He's got skills."
Well, and yet he still knows nothing about baseball. Like, he doesn't even know who Babe Ruth is.
Well, yeah, and that kid
up until the end of the movie.
Yeah, and that kid actually he knew how to play baseball pretty well, but he had to pretend like he didn't know how to play. But so,
well, you could tell when he threw that first ball, you're like, okay, even my 2-year-old can launch it across the living room. Like, I've seen him launch things across the living room. It's almost like a natural reaction. Him, when he was trying to pretend to not throw it good, the actor, it was such a horrible job because it was just like, ugh. He even made the noise, and I'm sitting there like, okay, that's not even a very good acting job on that one in particular.
Yeah, and then just like you were mentioning before, they mentioned the Sultan of SWAT, the King of Crash,
the Sultan of SWAT.
The King of Crash. The Colossus of Clout. The Colossus of Clout.
Babe Ruth! The Great Bambino!
And of course, you know, Smalls doesn't want to, you know, appear like he doesn't know.
The Great Bambino. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know who that is. And this is after he's seen an autographed ball in his stepdad's office that says Babe Ruth. So,
but they don't actually. If you notice, they don't mention his name.
No, they never say Babe Ruth.
So he's never able to put it 2 and 2 together until they literally find out that he knows nothing about it.
You want us to tell me that the stepdad has been around, and you know, Babe Ruth. Now I know this is the '60s and Babe Ruth was in the '30s and everything, but I think that having a stepdad who liked baseball that much, he probably would have talked about Babe Ruth by then, but maybe just by Babe Ruth. I don't know.
Well, then you find out like Benny's like talking to not imaginary characters,
well, he had
but
a dream.
Like. Yeah, but I mean, it happened more than once, didn't it?
No, it's just.
Well, you noticed you noticed whose card he picked up and asked if he could have.
No,
Hank Aaron's card. Okay?
Okay.
Hank Aaron's the one that beat his record, his home run record.
That was in the old man's
house,
right? Okay.
Yeah, where he asked if he could have the Hank Aaron card, and that's because, well, Babe Ruth picked it up.
Okay, I got you. Yeah. So basically, after they're done with all that, and Smalls is kind of like accepted. We meet the rest of them like Squints and Ham and who was the dude that just disappeared one day? I can't remember.
Yeah, the tall, lanky guy. Like I've seen him on movies before. I just couldn't put my finger on where I had seen him before because
I just couldn't remember his name. But it's Bertram. Bertram is the guy I'm talking about. Yeah, Squints. Kenny, all these people.
Yeah, because, I mean, to be honest with you, the only person that I've seen on this, I mean, besides the adult actors, right? But every one of the other kid actors, I mean, like Patrick Renna, I've seen him, like, on TikTok. He's having this new surge of popularity on TikTok.
He still has his Sandlot shot as his profile picture.
But in all reality, like, Brandon Quinton, Kenny, who played Kenny, he was on Mighty Ducks too.
Yep, and Moonwalker.
And so he did. I mean, really, besides the adult actors, I don't really think any of the other ones did anything.
No. I mean,
in Hollywood, I mean, as far as movies beyond that, I mean, really, you know,
Mike, who played Benny, he didn't even come for their reunion. They had a 25-year reunion. By the way, next year is their 30-year reunion for Sandlot. It's been 30 years.
That's insane,
or whatever. But in 2018, they had a 25-year reunion, and Mike, who played Benny, didn't come back for it. He's still around. They even called him out and was like, "You got to come back, Mike," and everything. But maybe he's just doing his own thing or whatever. But it's funny because the guy who played Benny, young Benny, is actually the brother of the guy who played the older Benny. And, it's Mike Vitar and Pablo Vitar. But basically, after he's accepted, Ham gets pissed about something, and he ends up hitting a homer and hits it right into this yard. It's an adjacent backyard from the field and everything. So Smalls is like, all right, I'll get it. And he gets up on the fence. He starts climbing. They all like haul butt to him. And they're like, you can't go over there to look through the little hole there. And, they tell him about this monster. It's a giant gorilla dog thing is what they call it.
And I'm sorry, that dog could have, as big as it was, could have got through that little hole and pushed that hole out a little bit more.
Maybe. It was,
kept on looking
as far as the strength that it showed it had, I'm sure it could have taken down that fence a long time ago. I mean, it jumped over the fence. So, anyways, they tell the story about how the owner, Mr. Myrtle, got sick of people stealing, robbers and stuff, stealing from his junkyard. So he got this dog, and it actually ended up eating a kid. And that
whole story, it brought me back to A Christmas Story.
Oh yeah,
the way that they filmed it and the way that they portrayed what the author was trying to detail, how he's trying to detail the robbery and bringing in the puppy and everything. I mean, they were even dressed up as robbers. Like, remember A Christmas Story where they were dressed up as robbers? Yeah. Robbers trying to come in there.
No.
But it brought me back to that. I was just like, holy crap, that's exactly the same.
Yeah. So it's basically it's explained that this dog has eaten kids before, and so in punishment they made the owner chain it up in the yard, because that's what you do when it kills kids. You don't put the dog down.
Right. And what if we learn, kiddos, not to believe anything Squints tells you?
Right. So all these kids are all like trying to figure out what to do, but they're done with the baseball because they've hit the ball over there and now it's too hot and they want to be done with it. Of course, Benny's never like that. It's like baseball all the time. He just lives baseball.
They made a point to point that out too. They made a point to make a point. But they pointed that out during the 4th of July when they were talking about how all the other kids would sit there and when this fireworks go off, and it showed it actually before, after they had told the story about it, but or kind of during. But anyways, saying when the fireworks and stuff were going off, all the other kids were staring and bewildered by the fireworks, where Benny would have to keep pulling them back to continue to play the game, because they play this game every 4th of July. And so,
that fireworks takes place after what I was getting into.
Oh, okay.
No, I was putting it how, because they were so hot and they knocked the ball over, they were like, let's go cool down at the pool.
Yeah.
So before they do the 4th of July, actually go ahead and finish what you're.
Well, I was just saying how it was very interesting, because we were saying how Benny was baseball all the time,
right? And they noticed that during the fireworks, they tried to play the night game, and then everybody else got distracted by the fireworks,
except for Benny,
who was running the bases and everything.
Yeah,
and, he doesn't. the entire sky is exploding. I mean, it's not like fireworks nowadays where it's all contained to one city, and you have to watch very far away because people are worried about fires. Back then, it was just like everybody was launching fireworks and stuff.
Exactly.
So there's just fireworks all in the sky. They were playing, and when the ball got hit, they all got distracted and just kept looking and let the ball just go. And Benny's not the only one not looking up at the sky, just running around. And Smalls, kind of observes that and makes a conscious comment about baseball was his life. So, but before that happened is one of the probably most popular scenes of the movie. It's when the kids try to go to the pool to cool down.
We all went because Wendy Peffercorn was the lifeguard.
Everybody, all the kids love Wendy Peffercorn, but nobody loves Wendy Peffercorn more than Squints.
Right.
And he's been in love with her forever. And, we've seen her a couple times in this movie, or at least once walking down the street. And, we always see Squints is the one that's staring at her.
Right.
But then it shows her, she's staring at him as well. She's like for a good time, like she'll look back and keep staring and be smiling at him. It was very weird because she was like 3 or 4 years older than him. She had to have at least been 15.
I mean, it looked like she was more like 10 years older than him, but
she was 18 when they filmed this, and the kids were all like 12 or whatever. But in the movie, say she's 15 to be a lifeguard at least. They're 12. It's only a few years older, but it was just really weird because she had to have been in high school while these kids were just going into middle school.
Right.
So it was a little weird that she was staring at him.
Well, they were in the 5th grade.
But then you could always see that this is... I thought they were going... they were done with 5th grade and they were going... Yeah, because they were 12. They were going into middle school.
Okay.
So, and I think that what I saw this as is that her staring and smiling at him may have just been through his lens, like he maybe just thinks that she's doing that.
Well, I don't know. After the pool incident, you could tell that she really was, because she wasn't like winking at him, but she was just kind of smiling.
Just
at him.
spoil it. They did say that eventually he ended up marrying her.
Yes,
and they had 9 kids. So yes,
but the director
there was something there.
The director did talk to the actor that played Squints and said, one rule. Keep your tongue in your mouth.
He did. And did you know that the real life person that Squints was based on tried to get the movie, tried to sue him and do all this?
Really?
Yeah, because he didn't like how he was portrayed in the movie.
I mean, I don't think there was anything wrong with the guy that played Squints.
Maybe not.
What did he grow up to be again?
They own that pharmacy.
That's right.
They took over or whatever. But so, anyways, what happens is, and this would definitely not happen in a movie nowadays. He goes and is like, I'm gonna get her attacked. He's like, I can't. Basically, the equivalent of I've just gotten too horny now. I can't handle it anymore. I have to do something. He even said that. He's like, I can't handle it anymore, guys. It's like he's kidding.
They were like having no clue what he was talking about.
Yeah, they were kind of like, look, dude, she's hot and everything, but what are you talking about?
Even
like,
then,
he's like getting obsessive.
But even then, it was all in a lot of that monologue. It was probably going on just in his head.
Probably.
So when he looks at them and says, "Oh, I just can't handle it anymore," they might not. All of them might not actually know what he's talking about. Maybe there might be a couple but for the most part, I think they don't have any clue where he's getting at with this. Statement.
And I think it probably would have been better to leave it as maybe they didn't get married in the future or whatever, because then it could have been part of that same thing where, what was the other movie that we were talking about where we think when we were younger we think something is fate and it's just happens to be a coincidence. The Can't Hardly Wait episode. Everything as a teenager, you think that if you're in love with some girl there or whatever or some guy, everything is fate or whatever, but it's really just coincidence. You're just you got all that gunk in your head. And
well, and I think a lot of people, that's where you get serial killers from and psychopaths, in the sense that, they can't determine the difference between real life and fantasy. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so that's, it also is probably telling you when a movie is really that good, when it's very hard to kind of, when you recollect, I swear this is true, but no, it was just said something on a movie, right, that you took and brought it into real life in some sort of fashion, and it's like, no, that wasn't real, that was fantasy. I think that's where you get the crazy nutballs at, is when they can't tell the difference between the fantasy, and that's kind of like where I think Squints at, because I think he's in his whole other own movie inside this movie.
Could
in a
be
way.
kind of like that guy in Disturbing Behavior.
Yeah.
But anyways, we so the scene here is he's like, okay, I'm gonna try to kiss this girl without her permission.
Yeah.
So that's why I said that this wouldn't be allowed nowadays in movies or whatever. But he can't swim. So it'd be one thing if he went and did this and he could swim, but he was just faking it. But this dude was willing to risk his life to make out with this girl. I mean, it said, even the kids were like, he can't swim. So he goes to the diving board, jumps into the deep end, fakes drowning. She pulls him out and does mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. And, he kind of smiles in between her doing that. And when she comes back for the last time, he grabs her by the back of the head and literally starts, trying to make out with her. And this is probably why the director's like, no tongue. Or whatever. But, she calls him a pervert. She kicks him out. She actually drags him out of there. And they're banned from it. But as he's walking away, there's like a little monologue voiceover by the main character. And you see Squints looking at the lifeguard. She kind of lowers her sunglasses after they've been kicked out. And she kind of just smiles and shakes her head at him. And then later on, you find out, they ended up getting married, having 9 kids, and taking over the drugstore.
Yeah.
So after that is the fireworks scene that we talked about. And then they are also challenged by a local little league team when they come up on their bikes and they start going back and forth with the Sandlot crew. You had Ham say,
"You play ball like a girl,"
and that was like the huge insult.
That was a tipping point there.
That was the insult that you don't say to other baseball players. His masculinity was so intense back then and everything. So they decided to have a little game, and this is like what I said, that this in a typical movie, you would see them challenge you. Okay, we'll get you next week, and that would be the last game of the movie that they'd end up playing against these people. Well, they started the game the next day, and they beat them handily.
Yeah,
I mean, first of all, you have Ham just talking trash to all the people coming up to bat, just messing with them. And all of them, when they come up to bat, the Sandlot crew, even Smalls, they're all getting great hits out of it, and they beat the crap out of them. So they're so happy that they.
But I mean, here's the thing: Sandlot, that crew does this every day. That baseball team they have practices. They probably play a lot more often than not, but. They're not like the Sandlot crew where they're literally playing every single day.
And I also see it as Benny challenging the Sandlot crew, and so they're used to playing with somebody like Benny.
Yeah.
They're really good. They have to be good or else they can't play with Benny, so obviously he's going to be the best or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially guarantee he's probably the only one out of that town that went professional,
Yeah. So
they even acknowledge it, too. The Little League team, they acknowledge that
they're like,
Benny's...
nobody's good here except for Rodriguez.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They know better.
So basically, to celebrate that, they go to the fair, and good old Bertram, which starts out what eventually happens to him when he's older, which is hilarious. I mean, it's kind of actually creepy, but hilarious at the same time. But Bertram found some tobacco, and so he gave that around. And I think the tobacco, what was the tobacco? It was like licorice with
and jerky,
pieces of bacon on it.
Well, it said it was beef jerky and licorice.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, it's supposed to be, it's obviously not the shredded up, skull type stuff that we know nowadays or whatever.
Well, I thought because at the end they say Bertram has basically disappeared and they never see him again.
So. What do they say?
Bertram got really into the 60s, and no one ever saw him again.
It was kind of creepy because he just turned into a teen, and I'm sure they all moved away and did different things. Smalls and Benny are the only ones that kind of stayed in contact.
Yeah.
But
obviously,
the fact that he just disappeared.
Well,
it all started with tobacco.
Yeah, and I automatically
got into drugs
the 60s.
And all that.
That's all they said. He got into the 60s.
Got really into the 60s, and nobody ever saw him again.
If they would have went more into detail about him, then instead of being on a Disney Channel, it probably would have ended up on Criminal Minds or something.
Or we saw him in the Forrest Gump movie. He was in there somewhere, just one of those side characters. There's Bertram over there, disappearing.
That would have been be kind of awesome to carry Bertram throughout all Disney movies from here on forth.
Yeah, just
here on forth.
Just have different characters play him at different parts of his life.
Yes.
Just like finally at the end, like Bertram's had a crazy life.
And then he comes out and at the end of it, like an Avengers movie, saying that he was a watcher.
That's what we should do. We should have our fans start looking at Disney movies and figure out who could be Bertram in each one.
Correct.
Have him progressively get older.
Yes.
Starting out in the 60s.
Then him being a watcher eventually through the Marvel films.
That'd be hilarious.
Because that's what watchers do.
Yeah, like Stanley or whatever.
Or one of those bald guys from Fringe.
I didn't get into that. I only watched I only watched the first season of.
It's one of the greatest
Fringe.
TV shows of all
People
time.
keep telling me. So, anyways, they put the tobacco in and they throw up all over the place, and it's
all over the ride. They said it was like oatmeal with, and they did it with what was it? A water gun, like a fish gun or something like that.
Remember.
But it was like
like peanut butter. And
and
a bunch of other stuff.
And then they just sprayed it, and they said that they did actually hit.
Had like some Fruit Loops on his shirt afterwards.
And then they apparently did hit a few people. A few people got hit with the fake puke.
That's hilarious. So basically, one day Benny hits their baseball and he knocks the cover off. He hits it so hard he knocks the cover off. Small's like, I got a ball, and they're like, oh, okay, cool. So he brings the ball from the trophy room that's signed by.
How would those guys not see it, like in their hands?
But not that. Yeah, I wondered that too. I was like, how do you just not like look at it or?
Because any of those other persons besides Smalls,
they would have been like
that would have said Babe Ruth. They would have been like, excuse me, what?
Be like, everybody stop! I gotta carefully take this back to the house. But I mean,
I'm gonna spank Smalls.
But it shows
for this.
Smalls was pretty stupid too, because you're taking a ball that has a signature.
He's not stupid. He's not stupid because
oblivious of
the toys, of sports and athletic
of
things.
what it means and all that kind of stuff. But but seriously, if you had any kind of level of intelligence, you go into a trophy room and you take a ball that has somebody that signed on it. Would you go play baseball with it? Well, maybe at that age you might.
I'm a true believer of you can be somebody that that can be a genius but have zero street smarts, or common sense. Either one, they both mean the same thing. Common sense and street smarts is pretty much the same thing. You can be a genius, like for instance Sheldon on Big Bang Theory. He's a genius. He has just no common sense.
Yeah,
like nothing he does really makes any sense. Outside of science, you know what I mean? And so you could be the smartest person in the room, but also be a complete idiot when it comes to common sense, you know what I mean? And so I think that's what Smalls was. He was very smart, but he had zero sense of what kind of sense the world made, and the way that kids should be and whatnot. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but the life that they're having during the summertime is what I wanted for myself
for our kids.
And for our kids, like I want my kids to have a love like that, with
and I'd love to be able to go let them run with their friends and go off and do the things and not have to worry about them.
But you can't do that.
That's one thing. I watched it with my son and your son last night, and they both I can't remember which one. I think it was Henry, but they were asking me like saying something like, oh, you probably wouldn't let us run off like that, would you? And I was like, you can't do that nowadays. You just can't. With this as many of terrible things that's going on in this world. Back in the day, it was a different time. So
hey, where do you get big-headed glasses for big-headed people?
I don't know, but I think ours are always going like this.
I know.
Because
I'm going to be going to the eye doctor soon. Yes, I'm getting older, so
get some laser
I do
surgery.
have to. Yeah, well, no, nothing. Just like I won't get that other kind of surgery that makes you not have kids no more. I don't want anything that close to my eyes.
I don't either, but that's why I do it like one at a time. Like do this one,
blind.
make sure I don't get blind in this eye, and then I'll let you do this eye, so I can at least have one good working eye.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to be like, let me go do LASIK on one eye, go home, let it heal for a week or two. Still got my vision. Okay, then now you can do the other eye.
Yeah.
That way, at least I got one good working eye, or whatever. But it only takes like 10 minutes, and it's relatively painless.
Yeah, but I'm not that blind.
$6,000, but then it's relatively painless and quick.
I'm not that blind, but now I realize, like when I start reading stuff, I'm like, okay, that's what it means to be blurry. When I put on these little tacky $10 reading glasses or whatever, so I can read. Like far away, I can see perfectly fine. It's just closer up. The older I get, the harder it is. Yeah.
So basically, Smalls gets his first home run off that Babe Ruth ball. There's some luck to it. but any luck is taken out.
Well,
he
remember,
sends it flying over the fence into the beast's paw.
You got to remember, this is an important part of the film too, because this is kind of like the catalyst of the film, right?
This is the beginning of the end problem that they have to deal with.
So with the baseball getting blown out like that, they looked at it as being an omen. They weren't sure if it was a good or a bad omen.
Really
at the
hard
time.
to explain to the boys what an omen was. I don't know why I had to work so hard to explain it, but it did take me quite a few minutes to explain that.
Yeah, but it was the catalyst, with that baseball getting tore up like that. That's what started it all, and you just think that he got a home run off of it, but man, why would you take that baseball off the thing? Off the trophy and bring it, no matter even if it wasn't like you didn't know who Babe Ruth was, why would you go up in there and you could obviously see that he's got it, and like you were saying earlier, that's why you didn't think he was that he is obviously that stupid if he can think, okay, this baseball's sitting up on this trophy, maybe I shouldn't mess with it.
What I'm saying. It should just be kind of common sense.
Yeah.
Thing. Especially showing how carefully his stepdad was handling all that stuff at the beginning.
Yeah.
But so anyways, they make a bunch of attempts with different poles and suction deals, and they, through the clubhouse or whatever. They make all kinds of, and we kind of really passed this, but they did have a sleepover in the tree house, and that's where we get our famous first line when Ham is trying to give.
And there's so many of them in this movie.
The s'mores.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You're killing me, Smalls." When he keeps saying, "No, why would I can't have some more of something. I haven't had it yet."
Yeah.
And he's like, he's trying to
literally has no clue what he's talking about.
So this kid has never had s'mores before or whatever. Yeah. So anyways, that's the very first line. "You're killing me, Smalls." Yes, if you've heard that line, that's where this is the movie that comes from. And it's said quite a couple more times in the movie, but that's the first time is during the s'mores part. But they make a bunch of different devices and it doesn't work. And so this is what I thought was really cool, is that the end climax of the heroic thing that needs to be done isn't done by the main character.
No.
It's done by Benny. Because he's kind of the hero. Benny's always been the hero of the group, whereas Smalls, who the story is being told from, it's his coming of age and, being able to, through his friends and the heroic actions of what ends up being his best friend.
Yeah. I mean, really with the stuff with his dad is really the only thing that was personalized in this story. Okay, so to
his
the narrator,
attachment to the rest of the
right,
as well.
But it was telling a lot of Squints' story. It was telling a little bit of Ham's story. Exactly. It was telling a little bit of everybody's story, a lot of Benny's story. So it was almost like
just told through the lens of Smalls.
Which he had a little bit of his story. It wasn't all about Smalls. You know what I mean? And half the time we didn't even see Smalls.
And he had to narrate it because what did he end up doing when he was older? He narrated baseball games.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
became an announcer and everything. So he's almost like their Dustin from Stranger Things.
Correct.
And their party. He's the one that has the records.
There's so many tropes in Stranger Things. It's insane.
So Benny goes to sleep that night after they try a bunch of different things, and he has a dream about Babe Ruth. And he basically just tells Benny, "Why don't you just go get it yourself?" He tells him, "Heroes get remembered, but legends never die. Follow your heart, kid, and you'll never go wrong." But he basically just says, "Well, just go get it yourself." And he goes, "You want me to pickle the beast?" And now this is a weird thing throughout the whole thing, obviously it's just weird verbiage, the way you got to pickle the beast. Now what pickling I figured out is, because they showed how Benny would pickle, is basically him going from third base to home. You know how you go back and forth between them throwing and everything.
Right.
That's basically what he was going to go do to the beast, is quickly run back there, grab it, and then head back, going back, using those moves.
Not going through him, but going away from him, basically.
It did show slow motion in the movie, him doing the pickling between third place and home.
Yeah.
And I actually I made a note about that, and it's just that it focuses on Benny's moves and how they're already perfect. How he's already perfect at this, so more foreshadowing. And everything.
The guy can literally hit the baseball into the outfield, into somebody's glove, that accurately.
Yeah.
So we already know that it's just baseball's his life. You know?
And when they were trying to get the dog, wasn't Squints in charge of looking for the dog? Why is it like we almost got it, and suddenly the dog comes out of nowhere and stops them? And it's like, Squints, it was your job to tell them that the dog was coming.
And they should have used the pan on the stick first, right, as their first attempt, because then and not going in slowly. Like Squints would have been like, okay, you're above it. Put the pan down and drag it out as fast as possible. No, they put the pan down, let it sit there for quite a while. Again, this is a Rachel moment. Sit on it quite a while just to wait for the creature to step on it.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there like, you could have already had that ball a long time ago. Or when Yaya was up, when he was lowered down, he had the ball in his hand. Why would he drop it? Like, if anything, you're going to go into the fetal position.
If I saw that thing too, I'd probably...
Right. But you're going to automatically go into the fetal position. You're not going to go like this, grab the ball, come up with it halfway, and then drop it, and then go into the fetal position. No, you're just going to automatically go in that fetal position.
Yeah. So Benny comes back the next day, and he's like, he got some brand new shoes, but they're really just new ones of the old ones that he had. The good old PF Flyers, as they called them. So he goes over the fence and pickles the beast basically to retrieve the ball. So he gets in there, and there's a standoff between Benny and the dog, and the ball is right in the middle. Benny takes off, grabs the ball, immediately stops, goes back the other way, leaps the fence, and who's right after him? The dog. And this is like the build up of the entire movie is the chase, the dog chase. Benny runs basically all over town without ever stopping. The kids, they run like 100 feet, and then they get tired and stop, and then they take a shortcut this way. Benny has not stopped since he started running from that dog. So he chases him through town. He's trying to, take it through barbecues to get it to stop. That dog wants its ball back.
It does.
Yeah, so it's obsessed with balls, and that's its entire focus. It runs through food, all this other kind of stuff, just to get the ball back.
Correct.
So basically, he comes back to the Sandlot, jumps into Mr. Martle's yard, and the beast crashes through the fence, but the fence falls on the dog.
Right.
It's a very sad part for you.
It is, and then the fact that Smalls and Benny, Smalls originally is trying to lift up the fence.
Well, first of all, I think they wanted to either run or they talking about killing the dog or something. And instead of doing that, Smalls just goes up there and starts trying to pick up the fence. Benny helps him, and the dog licks him, and
which is crazy. Which is crazy because like these other kids besides Smalls kind of grew up with this dog. Being on their favorite Sandlot. Like, I'm sure this was not the first summer that they were like this. They were probably like this during the whole school year, and then the summer before that, before even Smalls showed up. So they dealt with Hercules, which we find out is the dog's name. We find out that they've been dealing with him for a long time. Smalls has not. So kind of Smalls is probably the least hesitant person. It's not saying that he was the most gentle, but he was at least the least hesitant, probably because he never grew up with Hercules.
It was because of him that the whole shadow of the ominous dog and the ominous man got brought down for all of them. And it's really the moment that they all kind of grew up was getting past this point. The dog licks the face for gratitude, and you find out, okay, well, this dog just wanted the ball. Yeah, it's not eating anybody. Yeah, all it wanted the ball. Now we got all these kids here. The fence is down. The dog's not doing anything.
And then that's when they start hitting Squint.
Yeah, well,
they find out from the old man.
So they go to Mr. Myrtle's backyard. So the dog got out, and he's like, "Oh, why don't you just tell me? I would have gotten it for you."
Yeah.
And then they all start hitting Squint because he's the one that said, "No, he'll kill kids too."
Yeah.
So. But
there's always somebody, and especially in these small towns, there's always this story of the old man or the old lady or the old couple that live on the corner of the street in the house that's like broken down, dark, dogs. There's always a story about these older people and these older characters, and then we find out that it's basically the age-old story about this particular situation, but just different people every time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what was it in It? It had the same story. The Don't Breathe movies, they actually went into that house and robbed.
No, I know what you're talking about. Back then, though, you'd have like, it's the and it's usually in kids' movies.
Right.
The ominous, scary person that ends up not being so scary.
Yeah.
This, I think, just does it
Monster Squad.
so much better than some of the other ones.
Home Alone.
The movie is how do I want to say this? the movie's about a group of kids and their mutual love of something communal,
right?
Being baseball, and how that affects and brings together their friendship. But this could be anything. It could be baseball. It could be D&D. It could be anything.
Yeah.
Something communal where you're coming together. It just happens to speak through the lens of baseball and Babe Ruth in this movie. The actual coming of age part is actually shown in this. The Beast, as you would think as a kid, now that you've come of age, is just a ball-loving dog. Who
literally will just sit out there and watch you play baseball at the end.
Which is probably what he was doing, And the scary neighborhood recluse is a no-nonsense but kind man who has a connection to their shared obsession, being Babe Ruth or baseball or whatever. The new stepdad, scary and uninterested at the beginning, becomes more when they understand each other.
Right.
And he tells him, it's like, hey, we'll try that the catch thing when I get back, So it showed that, with all those different things and many others, that this is truly a coming-of-age story. It's using baseball, but it's showing how the scary things, once you pay attention more or whatever, once you get past the... what do you want to say? That wall of make-believe or whatever it is as a kid that you want to amp everything up, you find that it's really just a bunch of innocence and you're making a whole lot of things out of nothing.
Well, did you have any issues with this movie? Like something that didn't really essentially make sense to you?
Well, and real quick, that's why I say the antagonist is coming of age, because it's scary, but once they passed it, they discovered that these threats are not so threatening. So I'm not a baseball fan, but that's how I connect with others.
Yeah.
But what were you saying? What were you asking
Well,
me?
did you have any certain issues in particular about this movie?
I
had one glaring one, and I think, for instance,
I thought it was weird that we didn't have more of a climax, but
or essentially several different climaxes on this movie. But it was the thing that didn't make sense to me is that yes, he got a better baseball. His stepdad got a better baseball. Lou Gehrig and all these other guys on this baseball.
Yeah, eventually the old guy trades the chewed up ball for a ball that was signed by everybody on Babe Ruth's team, and the stepdad was a little irritated and grounded Smalls, but he was pretty happy to get the whole death row team signed on there.
Which is cool and all, but it's it kind of seemed like he liked that other baseball because that was from his dad.
Yeah.
It's something that was handed down.
And he obviously grounded him for that and everything. But the fact that he didn't go off and thought, okay, well, this other ball was given to me by my new kid, by this kid.
Yeah.
And now it's something that we can bond over, like I bonded with my dad over, and that I could eventually pass down to.
Well, and maybe it was some sort of linchpin for him, too, to kind of, instead of dwelling in the past, to dwell more in the future and in the
father
present.
Or Smalls?
The father.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? Kind of like a way to, because it kind of seemed like he would spend a lot of time in there by himself and probably, missing his dad or something like that. And
he didn't know how to connect with Smalls because Smalls didn't know anything about baseball and couldn't play it.
And then we end up finding Smalls grows up, literally his whole life is baseball.
Yeah. So, basically you find out, that he trades the ball and lets him have that Murder's Row ball, and just asks them to visit him every week and talk baseball with him. And of course,
they're yes.
that has to be what keeps Benny and Smalls together. This is what I was talking about at the beginning, is that the reason they both stuck with it for so long, and the reason that especially Smalls, because Benny was already going to stick with it.
Yeah.
First of all, this guy's character, he must have had some probably connections that might have helped Benny in the future.
Yeah.
They're talking baseball. Smalls doesn't know anything about baseball, but he's an announcer when he grows up.
And everybody else,
you need to know almost more than even baseball players know to do that job.
Yeah.
And you understand that he said, come by every week and talk baseball.
Yeah.
That's how he learned to do that,
Yeah.
to be an announcer, to learn all about baseball, is because he had to describe to a blind man what was going on in the game.
Yeah.
So
True.
So
if you look at it that deeply,
exactly.
I get that.
The guy was blind, and he's like, come talk to me about baseball. So telling this blind guy what's going on in the baseball game, it teaches Smalls how to talk about baseball in a way where you're trying to convey that, like they used to do on the radio when you can't watch what's going on. So, and it probably kept Benny and Smalls together for that part. But the only other thing I had to say about this was that the sad part that people might not think of is to become a pro like he did, Benny probably would have eventually had to join one of those snobby teams that they hated so much, one of the Little League, to up his game, because you can only play with the Sandlot people so many times. You got to start playing with other Little League teams and everything. So,
well, didn't it show him actually in a uniform as a kid before he left? I want to say it did, but I mean, I could be just imagining that.
No, I didn't see him. I don't remember seeing him in an outfit or anything. But like I was saying, he would have had to join one of those teams to up his game. And in addition to that, those on the Sandlot team probably would never commit to a league, like a Little League team, because they just like doing what they're doing. And so that probably helped.
It's the never-ending game.
Separated them from Benny.
Yeah.
And, eventually they all moved away. And everything.
Well, they looked at it. It was the never-ending game for them.
Right.
Like, where literally nobody was really on it. There was no teams. It was just a constant game going constantly, and probably taking turns batting, of course, but it just kind of seemed like Benny was mainly the only one batting, I mean, the rest of them did bat, but it was like, a constant game. And that was the most entertaining part of this film, I think.
Yeah, I just thought it was real sad thinking about how Benny, the one that they looked up to, eventually would have had to join one of those teams and stop playing with them as much and everything. But, this only has like 64%, which is like 6.1 out of 10 on Rotten Tomatoes and everything. So it didn't really get a crazy good score. Ebert talked about how it was a summertime version of Christmas Story.
Yeah,
which makes sense and everything, but you would think that as legendary as this movie is and how many lines it came that quoted from this movie, it just wasn't as popular when it first came out. This is one of those ones that, much like certain other movies, they became more like Shawshank Redemption, wasn't as popular until it was on VHS for rewatchability when people started renting it.
And we also know that Siskel and Ebert weren't as good at their job. Were they pioneers? Yes. Were they as good at their job as they think that they were and everybody tried to make them? No, they were not. Because, again, an opinion is not a fact.
Yeah.
You see that the vast majority of people that watch this movie love this movie, where, they always seem to do that with all
They were
other
mainstream
movies.
critics. So that's what I don't like about it. I'm on the same page with you, mainstream critics, which means they were very, very extremely judgmental for movies making it to the mainstream audience, which was, we call them popcorn eaters. So you had to do that. But every movie has some kind of merit.
I would hate my life in that sense. If I always
just try to find the negative stuff.
on people, on their movies, like to do that to a movie would just break me up. I would, those people, like, it just seemed like they didn't have the love of the movies that a lot of us
I do have to say, I don't think I'd be able to do it. That's why we try to only talk about movies that we like here, so we don't spend an hour and a half bashing other movies or whatever. But I really enjoyed this movie. I wasn't as connected with it as you were, I don't think, as when we were younger, but I still had enough connection with the coming of age story aspect of it, the hero of Benny aspect of it and everything. And hopefully we get to see that actor come together for more reunions and everything. So you like this movie? What was your favorite scene?
I mean, most of the stuff with, I think when they met James Earl Jones and you're seeing that baseball history behind him, was just, I think that was probably my favorite part.
Okay.
So, and when the dog licked him,
I was a fan of Wendy and everything, but but I think to put your glove up in the air and I'll do the rest. I mean, that's got to be an awesome, just an awesome part.
And we see her again in Scream, which is very ironic because she still looks like the same age back in '93 as she does in Scream.
Have you seen?
In my opinion, she seriously has not aged.
Have you seen the new one? The newest Scream?
Yes.
Okay, because she was in the last Scream as well.
Yeah.
You've seen the new Scream?
Yes.
Okay. Poor Wendy. If you guys want to get a hold of us, we're on all social media at The Post Credit Podcast, except for Twitter, we're at The Post Credit. Our email address is thepostcreditpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website, it's www.thepostcreditpodcast.com, and we're on YouTube. We appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next time.
And you're killing me, Smalls.